Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Last day? Everyone excited? All right, my name's Jordan. I'll be the host here, and what that means is at the end of the session, I'll be walking around with the microphone and letting you all ask questions. So if you guys could give a round of applause, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jake.
Right. Thank you so much. Really excited to be here. Thank you for joining us on what is one of the last sessions of the Jamf conference. Appreciate you sticking around and seeing me. Hopefully they saved the best for last. So I am Jake with Serval. We are deploying AI agents for IT teams. And today we're going to talk about how we can help you automate 80% or more of your IT tickets in just 24 hours of using Serval. It sounds crazy. It sounds impossible. I'm going to show you how we can do it. But first, I want to talk about the plan for this session. So I'll talk a little bit about the company, the background, what we're trying to do, our brand, our grand vision for what we're achieving here. Then I'll bring it into how we think about AI for IT automation. And then we want to look deeply into the product. So we're going to go through a bunch of different videos, seeing the product in action and talking about how our product can help achieve that 80% automation rate. So let's dive in. A little bit about the company. So I am the founder and CEO. I'm there on the couch with Alex, our co-founder and CTO. We were both at a company called Verkada. Verkada, if you don't know, builds physical security systems, cameras, access control, alarm systems. I was director of product. Alex was director of engineering. We spent 5 years talking to enterprise IT and security teams, asking them what new Verkada products we could build for them. Unfortunately, all they told us was, get me out of the help desk. Automate my IT tickets. Do that for me. And so after hearing that years and years and years and over and over and over again, we decided to go and leave Verkada and build Serval. And when we started Serval, we started with this idea that we wanted to build a platform that resolves requests instead of tracking tickets. We looked at the existing ITSM tools, the different tools that IT teams were using, and a lot of them were around tracking work instead of doing the actual work. And so when we thought about how do we build a platform that actually does the work, the answer we had was we need to rethink automation. We need to rethink how automation works and how automations are built. Today, when you build an automation, it looks something like this. It's a workflow builder. Maybe there's some dragging, there's some dropping, there's some custom scripting. And the problem with these tools, even though eventually they do work and you can get some really cool stuff out of them, the problem with these tools is they require all this upfront investment. You have to really be willing to commit to build out these workflows and then hope that at the end of this process, when you've done building out this workflow, you're going to get some return on that investment. And that's a hard decision to make when you're being bombarded with other things to do. Does it make sense for me to build this workflow? Am I going to get a return on that? And so what we decided is the only way to really make automation work for IT teams is that if it were easier to automate a task forever than to do that same task manually a single time. So if somebody asks you to reset their password, we want to build a platform where it's easier and faster to build an automation that resets passwords for everyone, always, for the end of time, than it would be to go into Google or Okta or Microsoft and reset that password a single time. And that's what we built. We built a platform that develops automations from natural language prompts. So you type in plain English what you want to automate, what workflow you want. We build that, and we build that behind the scenes in code. So we're actually a code generation platform. You can think of it as vibe coding for IT automation. We're going to translate that prompt, that workflow you want. We're going to translate that into code-based workflow, and that workflow will be able to take any action across any application. Because these workflows live as code, that means that you can automate anything that code could automate. Anything that an IT automation engineer actually writing a script could do, you can build with our platform in natural language. And then you can trigger those workflows in a wide variety of ways. They could be triggered automatically from help desk requests that are coming in through Slack or email or our portal or your existing ticketing system. You could trigger that on a schedule, a weekly report, a monthly report on offline devices, or you could trigger that from a webhook from another application. And so we're going to talk about that more. We're going to see how that works. But what that does is that builds the core, the foundation of our broader AI native platform. What Serval is fundamentally doing is combining these historically disparate systems, an ITSM, a workflow builder, and an access management platform, and we're uniting them into one platform, really with the glue being that ability to build those workflows. We are trusted today by some of the world's most innovative companies: Perplexity, Verkada, Together AI, Mercor, Built, Cribble, Writer, Clay, a whole host of others I can't put on the slide here. And we have raised over $50 million from top investors in the world, despite being a little over a year old. So we are on a meteoric horizon, and I'm excited to dive in and show you how that's been possible and what we're doing for a lot of our customers today. So let's talk about how we're going to get to 80% automation rate. This is your AI toolkit. These are the capabilities within Serval, and we're going to dive into each of them one by one today, starting with what it looks like from the end user experience. So starting with the help desk. We have a full help desk automation platform, an AI agent that lives in your help desk and takes in requests and automates them one by one. And we can do this for the long tail of help desk requests, whether those are just-in-time access requests to a certain application or resource or role, whether that's a knowledge-based search request, what's the Wi-Fi or what's our policy on this, whether that's just a long-tail request around I need a new email alias or I'm locked out of my laptop, or infinite kinds of things that you might see through your help desk. And then even if we can't automate it end-to-end, we can escalate that into our ticketing system and provide tools for your agents to be able to automate that request down the line. So let's take a look and see what this looks like, starting in Slack. So I'm gonna cover this in Slack today. We also support Teams, we support email tickets, we support API tickets, we have a portal. So Slack is just one example. See, Hannah here has asked for access to Figma. It's gonna see what role you need. So we have role-based access requests. She's gonna provide the role. We have time-based access requests. So then it can say, hey, how long do you need access for? All of this, of course, is configurable. So you can set these limits, the time limits and the roles for every single application in the platform. And then this provisioning is gonna be automated end to end. So you're gonna be able to automate that. I'll show you what that looks like later today. Access requests, big chunk of help desk requests, but the other one we see a lot of are these kind of like classic knowledge-based search requests. So, what's our PTO policy? What's the Wi-Fi? I'm having trouble with the VPN. Hey, am I eligible for a new laptop? All the kind of policy requests. We can search your knowledge base. We can get information from your documentation and answer those questions, regardless of where they come from. And then the long tail of all the other stuff you might want to automate. Because Serval workflows are all code-based, it means, again, anything you might want to automate that you could theoretically automate with an application API, you can do with Serval. So you can go and you can create email aliases, you can reset passwords, you can do anything else that you might want to do, and all of that can be automated in Slack, in Portal, via email, wherever these help desk requests live. So what happens if you have a request that isn't automated end-to-end? Well, Serval is a full ticketing system. So those requests that don't get automated, they go into our ticketing system. Now, we would love to replace your ITSM. We don't have to replace your ITSM. We can sit entirely as a layer on top of your existing ticketing and just do the automation as a layer on top, but we can also be your full ticketing. So you get to choose kind of your own adventure there, whether or not you want to use our ticketing end-to-end or use Serval simply as a layer on top. I'll talk about what that looks like. So if you look at our ticketing, we've got all the capabilities you'd expect. We have different teams where you can organize your tickets by team basis. HR, legal, finance can have their own queues. Within a team, you've got these different views that you can customize based on custom filters and sorting. And then if we dive in here on one of these tickets to see what it looks like, we've got all the conversation. So if this conversation happened in Slack, we're syncing in all the details from there. We're showing all the different workflows that are run. You can send messages here. You can also open up this Copilot experience. So if you do have a ticket that did not get automated end-to-end, we're not abandoning the human agent that's gonna go and work on that ticket. We're also giving them the tools to pull up that Copilot and have this AI assistance to be able to resolve the request with maybe private workflows that aren't exposed to the help desk. So in this example, Hannah is going and she's deleting this Slack channel. Now, that is not archiving the Slack channel. That is not a capability that you maybe want exposed to the help desk, but is something that your agents might be able to do using the Copilot in the ticketing experience here. We're tracking these tickets, so all the requests that come in, we're putting into the dashboard so you can see exactly how the AI is doing, what percentage of tickets are getting resolved by AI, whether that's 20, 30, eventually 80% as you get everything set up in the platform. You can break this dashboard down. You can look at where the AI is resolving requests, where it's simply assisting in requests, which requests are getting escalated to a human, how your team is doing from a time to resolution, and also insights. we're ingesting all this historical ticket data from Serval itself, but also from your existing ticketing platform, so you get a sense of where is the ticket volume coming from. What is driving that ticket volume, so you can prioritize what automations you want to go build. The final piece here, as I said before, you don't have to replace your ticketing system. So we have a full two-way sync support for all common ticketing platforms, whether that's ServiceNow, Jira Service Management, Freshservice, Zendesk, you name it, we support it. And so you can go and configure a two-way sync between these platforms so that all the data that's going into Serval also lives in your system, and vice versa. All the data coming into your ticketing platform gets put into Serval, and so you don't have to worry about changing your system of record. You can continue to work out of whatever system you feel most comfortable, and then one day when you choose to migrate to Serval, all the data is going to be there ready for you. So let's talk about the star of the show, which are building workflows in Serval. As I said before, this is what makes it so powerful. This is what powers all those help desk automations, powers all those secret Copilot capabilities that we have in the ticketing platform. The way it works is you're going to prompt the system in natural language. It's going to build out that workflow for you. You can then edit that workflow in chat or with code directly. You can set approvers for these workflows so they can't run unless certain people approve. And then you can even add installable workflows. We don't want you to have to start from scratch and build all these yourself. We have a pre-built library of hundreds of workflows that you can start with from day one that are already ready to go, and you can edit them from there and customize them as you see fit. So diving in, this is what it looks like to build a workflow in Serval. You'll notice there's no dragging, there's no dropping, there's no scripting. You're just going to write out what it is you want to automate. So we're going to create a workflow that resets a user's password in Google. You see Serval here is going to go and it's going to build out this workflow step by step. Just from that simple one sentence of reset the password, it knows everything it needs to do. It knows what's going to trigger that workflow. It's going to be a request from a user. It knows what inputs it needs. And you see here, all of that was built out in code. We're still representing it in natural language steps, so you can see exactly what it's going to do, even if you're non-technical, but we do have it in code if you want to edit the code level. Then you can add approvers, so you can decide to add group, manager, user level approval, and then you can run the workflow straight from here, or you can set up to be run from the help desk or run on a schedule. So that's one example. Let's look at another one. So a more complex case, right? Not just a simple password reset, but a full user offboarding. So offboard the employee from Jamf, lock their device down, Google Workspace. Again, any application, any action, any application you can automate with this platform. So you can build a very complex offboarding workflow that takes all these different steps. And then you can continue to chat with it to add steps. You can go in and say, hey, actually, I also want to offboard them from this, or I want to add this approval step, or I want to do this check. All of that is customizable here. And then you can set up these approvals to make sure that it doesn't get blocked. So you see here, we're going to add a step here, remove the user from Okta and any Okta groups. And you can just keep iterating with it. You add these steps to the workflow, and because it's all code-based, it can just dynamically update the code, and now you're done. Now it also removes the user from Okta. And we don't have to wait on Serval supporting some custom integration. Any application you guys use today, as long as there's an API, Serval can automate these actions. Cool. And then the final piece here on the installable workflow. So again, you're not going to start from a blank slate. You're going to have a bunch of workflows that are ready to go for all these different applications that you can simply install. Those become templates. So even though they're installed, you can go in and chat with it and say, hey, actually, I want you to do this password reset a little bit differently. I want this to work a little bit uniquely for my organization or this team. Next up, we have guidance. So this is an interesting capability we have that allows you to give the AI agent instructions. So what you saw before when somebody's requesting a workflow that resets a password, if a user comes in and they say, I want a password reset, the AI is smart enough to take that request from the help desk and route it to that workflow and say, okay, they asked for a password reset, here's a password reset. But what happens if somebody comes in and they say, my computer's broke, it's slow, or some kind of vague thing where it's not clear what an AI agent should go and do, what workflow it should use? Guidance is a means to steer the AI agent towards the correct workflows and actions to take, and allows you to have really, really complex behavior. It's basically customizing the agent that's interacting with your end users. In addition to customizing that experience, this is also where you can add knowledge items. We can also sync that from external sources like Confluence and Notion and Drive, but it's an opportunity for you to add knowledge and policies and other things so that the AI agent knows how to resolve these requests. And so what this might look like is you could go in here and you could create new guidance. The guidance is going to ask, when should it be used? So when should the AI agent use this guidance? And then what should it do? And so in this case, a user says their computer has been slow. It's going to say, hey, use your knowledge. You're a smart AI agent. You know how to troubleshoot computer issues. Use your knowledge, and then run this deterministic workflow. So what's really cool is you can mix this blend of determinism and non-determinism. You can say, hey, AI agent, try these things, and then go into this very deterministic code-based workflow that's going to do a very specific action in Jamf. And then if that doesn't work, then go, or if it's been more than 5 days since the user restarted, maybe trigger an automatic restart. That should usually solve the problem. Great, and then the next piece here is access, managing access. We are a full privileged access management platform. We can automate access requests and provisioning to any application, any role, any resource. The way this works is you're going to set policies. Policies govern who can request access, how long they can request access for, who needs to approve that access, whether or not business justification is required. You build these policies, you apply them to your different applications, roles, and resources, and then you're done. Then you're going to have all these requests that come in automatically get approved and provisioned according to your roles in the organization. So I'll show you what that looks like, starting with jumping into one of these applications here, and you're going to see how this configuration. So within Figma, we've got these different roles within the access. We've also got resources. So we think of roles, things like admin, viewer, editor, resources, maybe sub-teams or groups within the broader application. So we can configure access at different levels here. Then you can configure this policy. We're going to determine how long people can request access for, so you can have just-in-time access requests, whether or not they need business justification, who's going to approve that access. And then once that policy is set up, you can then apply that policy to different applications, and then you can configure how that access gets provisioned, whether that's provisioning via a linked group, an Okta group, an Entra group that's going to handle provisioning via SCIM, whether that's a manual task for somebody to go and do provisioning, or whether it's going to be a custom workflow where you're using that same workflow engine to go and customize what the provisioning steps are going to be. So if you've got an application that's not provisioned via SCIM, you can use that application's user management API to go and provision access. Or maybe if you want to manage access through actual code changes, if you want to make it a Terraform change, you can have a custom workflow that provisions by opening up a PR in GitHub and making a Terraform change. And so whatever the application is, however you want to provision that and whatever the rules are for access, you can configure all of that in Serval. That automatically gets sent to the help desk so that as requests come in, whether it's through Slack, it's through email, it's through our portal, you're going to be able to automate those requests end to end. So this is how you get to 80%. We have an AI help desk agent. It's going to send your help desk wherever that help desk lives. It's going to route to these workflows, route to this guidance, route to our access management platform. It's going to be able to automate those requests end to end. Even the ones that get escalated, you're then going to have a set of actions that your agents are going to be able to use, your human agents are going to be able to use to resolve those requests. And then we're going to provide you this workflow building experience. So whatever it is you want to automate, as long as those APIs exist, you're going to be able to create those automations from scratch. This is how our customers get it done, whether it's Perplexity, Verkada, Together AI, all these great organizations. They're hitting these automation rates, and you can too, and happy to dive into a Q&A here and talk about how that's possible. Before I jump into questions, if you have to run or you don't have time to stick around for questions, you can learn more at www.serval.com. We offer a 4-week pilot free of charge where you can go and you can get started with the platform. We'll assign you a forward deployed engineer that's going to walk you through getting set up and help you get to that 80% automation rate for your help desk. Thank you. Let's do questions. Question up here.
I've got a bunch of questions, so you can skip around.
Just so the recording gets into.
So my first question is about the workflows themselves. So is there any kind of versioning control on the JSON that it's auto-updating as you're iterating through the steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, every single time you publish a workflow, it creates a new version, and you can revert to any previous version. So there's full version control built into the UI. On top of that, we have a CLI where you can actually pull all the workflow code down into GitHub, and you can manage all of your workflows in Git as well. So if you wanted to manage it outside the platform and use version control that way, you can do that, or you can, in the platform itself, have version control.
Okay. Second question. So I noticed you had someone in Slack ping for a ticket. So they didn't actually raise a ticket, they just did that, and that becomes the ticket essentially.
Yeah, it's a good question. We take an interesting approach here where we consider every request a ticket because we want that recorded, we want that documentation of that object. Even if the AI automates it end to end, we still call it a ticket. Now, it gets resolved, so no one ever has to look at it. It just becomes like a record of the action that was done. And that way, as you're looking at your metrics, you see the full automation rate. You see it as if it were a ticket, but you just see that Serval resolved it. So we kind of call everything a ticket.
Okay, so it's like a CRM-based approach where it's like any lead is a ticket.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And then my third question was, is there any ability to add steps that run actual code? Like, is there any ability, like let's say for one workflow that you need to run a bash script or a PowerShell script, is there any ability for us to add a custom workflow or connector or
Yes.
any?
Yeah, because it's just a TypeScript file, so it's going to execute that file. So you can insert your own arbitrary custom code there.
Okay, and then it's running in your cloud or it's running on-prem or?
Both, it's optional. So you can run fully in our cloud. We have a full self-hosted option, and then we have a hybrid option where the workers themselves, the code execution happens in your own cloud environment.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? We've got one over here.
Do you support other languages?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the help desk agent that interacts with the end user supports all the languages that OpenAI and Anthropic supports, about 100 languages at this point. So is the interaction with the end user, that we have multi-language support. The Serval platform itself, we don't have localization for that yet. So the actual like SaaS application is not localized, that is on a roadmap. But the actual end user interaction is, it'll fully translate the information back and forth.
Cool, thanks.
Got another one.
So for the connectors themselves, let's say I'm a user, I want to create, hey, every time I get some email attachment, create a SharePoint page or something. How are the credentials for the user's resources tied to the resources? Is it like a service account approach, or are they saved into the steps themselves, or how is authentication handled?
Yeah, so you can customize that. So at the kind of like application integration level, what you'll do is you'll add the API credentials, and for different applications that'll look a little different. There might be OAuth credentials, might be an API key, it might be like an OAuth to like direct connection. So you configure that, and then when you're writing, building the workflows and you're customizing code, you can tell it how to authenticate. So you could say like only use this user's information, or only use the documents that they have access to, or only maybe send them an Okta push notification before they can proceed with the rest of the workflow. There's a lot of cool things you can do there, and I think the big takeaway is that as long as the APIs support whatever you're trying to do, you can build those restrictions, those controls into the workflow.
Okay, and then part two, is there any way to add like parameters? So like let's say you want to ask a user something, or you want them to sign into something before you run the workflow, is that supported?
Yeah, so every workflow assumes that there's like some kind of input information. And so you can tell the workflow, hey, take these things as inputs before you run. And then you can string together workflows. So you take some inputs, then you run a workflow, and then that leads to you running another workflow, and that workflow requires some additional inputs. And so that could be as simple as like the email that I'm going to reset the password for. Or it could be a complex onboarding form where you're saying, okay, what's the personal email, what's the department, what's the location, what's the job function, like go down and down the list. And what's cool is if you use Slack, or if you use email, or if you use the portal, you can actually collect that information in a form. So you have the option for all these workflows to collect information via chat or via form. Chat is really convenient if it's like one or two inputs, like, hey, what's your email? But if you're having to reply with 20 different pieces of information, it's really valuable to have a form.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. More questions on this side of the room, maybe. We've got one back here. There we go. Yeah, get this guy over here.
So assuming that, I guess it's programmed to deal with specific situations, how does it handle interactions that the user provides where it's like, hey, like I don't know how to do this functionality and it hasn't been trained yet?
Yep.
So does it catalog the situation and maybe send it to a human? How does it handle things like that?
Yeah, it just escalates as a ticket, right? So because everything is already a ticket, it basically says, okay, I'm not going to run with this one. I'm going to go and I'm going to assign the right person. And so you can build assignment rules using AI into the platform of like, okay, these people handle these topics, or I want to round robin assign it to the group of people, like all of that's supported. So it'll assign it. Then what it'll do is it still looks at what the interaction looks like from there. So if it assigns it, say, to you, and you come in and say, hey, the way you solve this is you reboot your computer, then what it'll next do is like, hey, do you want me to add guidance that says when people ask this question, they should reset their computer? And so it automatically suggests updates to your knowledge base that you can one-click approve, with the goal being you never solve the same ticket twice. As soon as you've solved it once, it's solved for everyone till the end of time.
Got it. And then any data that's ingested into it, let's presume like certain things might be internal and sensitive. So in my use case, like I work in a clinic from an IT perspective. So how does it, if there's like sensitive information, is it, I know you mentioned on-prem, cloud, is it HIPAA compliant, or are you guys not quite there yet?
Yep, we're HIPAA compliant, and we sign BAs with our sub-processors, happy to sign BAs with our customers.
Awesome.
And so there's a lot of ways to control information access. One is for every file that you ingest, you can control who can access that at a kind of a viewer level, team level. The other thing you can do is build into the code some checks of like, hey, review the information you're about to send. If there's anything that looks like PII or PHI, like go ahead and don't send that, or like send an alert or escalate it in some way.
Awesome. Okay. And last question that I had was, as far as what is like the licensing model like?
Yep. So we like predictability. So we actually have a flat rate seat-based pricing. So there's no extra charges for credits or API usage or any of these things. So what we do is we do a pilot with the customer so we understand the use case and everything, and then we offer a flat seat-based pricing. That way you know exactly what you're going to pay. There's no surprises of you run a workflow and all of a sudden it costs you, thousands of dollars because you didn't really understand how big that workflow was.
Gotcha. And one more thing, sorry guys.
No, keep going.
The very last thing I wanted to ask was, as long as the application you're trying to integrate has an API, it should be compatible.
Exactly.
Thank you.
We've got about 30, 40 applications that have a bunch of pre-built workflows that are ready. But then any application outside of that list, as long as there's an API, you can just start building workflows for it. And anything the system doesn't understand, it can even search the internet and find documentation on that API. It can find examples of other people that have built scripts. And so it can pull in any outside information to help you build these workflows.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. We got another one. No, it's great.
So the thing you showed with Slack where the user created that ticket, I saw that was like a channel. Is there any way for like when you use this with Teams, for example, to set it up as a bot or as a private conversation so that the input is not publicly showable to everyone else? Or?
Yep, absolutely. So we've got every kind of way to raise a request as you can imagine. So we've got the channel, we've got the bot. The cool thing about the bot is that it can actually triage to the correct team as well. So if you send something into the bot and you've got 20 different teams using Serval, it'll find the team that this request belongs to and use their workflows and knowledge and everything. We also have a slash command. So you can slash help and it'll automatically work. We also have like a shortcut so you can like highlight a message and then create a ticket. So all of the above, as well as of course email. We're gonna be adding voice support as well so people can call in their tickets and get AI support over voice. Every channel imaginable, we wanna meet your users wherever they are.
Okay, thank you.
Anything more?
Anyone else? Last chance?
Jake, could you describe some of the things you have done with Jamf specifically, since you are a Jamf Nation?
We are a Jamf Nation. Yeah, absolutely. So the short answer is obviously everything that the Jamf API supports. So some examples are like offboardings. So locking a device down as part of an offboarding flow, wiping a device, fetching file vault recovery keys for folks that are locked out of their device, reporting. So for example, I want to report on all devices that haven't checked in the past week. And I want that report sent to me in Slack like every week or sent to me in email every week. And I want to see like, hey, it's kind of weird that this device hasn't checked in. Is it lost, or does this person not show up to their job, or like what's going on? Those are all things that we've seen people do, and a lot of times they get mixed and matched with other workflows. So I see it as there's the help desk use case, which is I'm locked out or I'm having some problem. Then there's the onboarding, offboarding use case where we're configuring some settings in the system. And then there's the reporting use case where you've got something running on a schedule that's giving you some information. I think the other one that's really, really helpful is we can have this workflow run automatically when requests get escalated. So a request gets escalated, you can actually look up that user's device details. So the human agent working on that ticket, they already see all the information from Jamf about that device. So they're not having to ask, okay, like what OS are you on, or look that up in another system. They've got all that surfaced. It can also do things like understand your policies. So if someone says, hey, I want a new laptop, it can like look up their device age, how long ago was this issued, how old is the device, no, you're not eligible for a new laptop. So all kinds of stuff from the help desk, onboarding, offboarding, and reporting. Absolutely.
Anyone else? Last chance?
There we go. No.
You specifically showed a licensing question. As far as the groups and stuff with that go, let's say that the licensing for particular applications, like let's say Adobe or whatever, is different for each thing. Where do you store that mapping of like this group is responsible for this application, and like how does that work? Is there a database in the back end?
Yeah, so what we have is this concept of policies, which can go to a single app, so you can have a policy for Adobe, or you can have a policy that covers a wide variety of applications and roles. Those policies is what would determine, what the provisioning method is, exactly what happens with how long people can request access for, who needs to approve. We also, you can do dynamic, something I didn't showcase here, but we're releasing, is an approval workflow that's actually very smart. So for a given application access request, you can route approval to an app owner that's stored in some third-party system. So you can use AI to actually run a workflow to go find that information and then use that as the approver, or have some kind of smart approval where it says, hey, does everyone on that team have access to that role? Maybe we auto-approve that case. Or has no one ever been granted access for this role? Maybe we auto-deny that case. So you're not having to burden your staff with constant approvals and rubber stamps.
Thanks.
Yeah. That's great. He works for me. I mean, this is how we keep the conversation going. Yeah. Yeah. Undercover. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining our session. I really appreciate it. Please do learn more at serval.com and come find me if you want to ask more questions. Thank you.